You can develop your business by printing transfers. A transfer is the same plastisol ink that goes on a t-shirt, but instead is printed on paper. And if you do that, when you expose the screen, turn the image upside down. You'll be printing a mirror image so that when you take that paper and then lay it down on the shirt that's on a transfer machine, and you bring the head of the transfer machine down, the ink on the paper remelts and transfers off the paper onto the shirt. And now you want the image to read correctly. So you're going to have to print the image upside down. If you go into printing plastisol ink on paper, another thing to remember to do is to run the paper through the conveyor dryer before you print the ink on there, because once you print the ink on the paper and put the paper in the dryer, it's probably going to shrink, and you might be interested in doing a multicolor job. So if you're going to print multicolor, you would print the first color, run the paper through the dryer, and then you would change the screen, register the second screen to one of these images, and then you would print the second color, and then run that through the conveyor. So if you don't pre-shrink the paper, after you run the paper through the first time, it shrinks. Then you go to print the second color. The second color would be out of registration. So you have to pre-shrink the paper. Now, what I actually have here is not paper for printing plastisol transfers. I actually have a hold-down device. It's a vacuum hold-down device for graphics printing. So this could be like yard signs or bumper stickers. In my case, I print stickers that go on our equipment. And so I have a polyester sheet. Therefore, I have to use a matching ink, which is a polyester ink. It's a solvent-based ink. That means the stencil in here has to be a dual cure, which it is. Otherwise, the ink would attack the emulsion. I happen to be using capillary film, and this is what I call a stinky ink. It's a very strong odor, so I do not have the can open yet. And when I open the can, I'll put the ink in the screen, immediately seal the can so that the ink that's left in the can does not harden up and go bad on me, and then I will start printing. Now, the last thing I will do before I start printing is I have to have this vacuum work. Now, this particular vacuum hold down is 17 inches by 17 inches, which is fine for printing plastisol transfers and the stickers that I do. But if I was going to do yard signs, they are typically 18 by 24, so this would have to be larger. It could be any size, but they all work the same way. Basically, the air is drawn from the bottom, so this vacuum is going to suck the air, and the air is going through these little holes, which is going to hold the paper in place. And the reason I do that rather than spray adhesive or some other device is that you can put these on and remove them very easily when it's air. You can move much faster, and there's no residue of any adhesive underneath. So that's the way we do it. So let's say, for example, you were going to print 500 signs and there were 2 color signs. You would go through and you would each case take your sign and butt it up against 2 stops, and you would print 1 color, all 500 signs, one after another. And when you're all done, you would change the screen, put your second color in there, and bring those 500 signs back and print them a second time. And again, each time you would be pushing the sign up against the stops. So the sign is always in exactly the same place. And that's how you register one color to the other. And that's how the graphics business basically works. So you cannot bring a second screen over the first, because you wouldn't be using the screens fast enough and the ink would dry up in the screen. And if you brought a screen down on a wet ink, the first ink would get smeared. So you can't do that. So in any event, we're going to print 1 color, a very typical job. We do this all the time. We're going to print 1 color, and I'm going to print this image, which is repeated many times. And after these sheets dry, we will cut these up into individual labels, and those labels go on machines that we make. So this is how we get our labels. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the can of ink, and then I'll put the ink in the screen, and when I'm ready to go, you'll see that.